Hello and welcome to another AYCB video review. I'm Carlo and today I'm going to be dishing up Queenz, To Be or Not To Be. Now don't let the name, the look of this game, or the theme fool you, because what on the surface might seem like a simple beekeeping game actually has a lot more strategy than it would seem. This is a game that works well at all player counts of 2 to 4. I think you'll really enjoy it. Let me tell you what I think about it. Right off the bat, Queenz reminds me a bit of Azul and Spring Meadow. I'll try not to focus too much on the comparisons, but it has the abstract set collection aspects of Azul, while it has the sort of spatial awareness, polyomino puzzle thing from Spring Meadow, along with this kind of central board where players are taking tokens from. All three games are games that really reward long-term planning, but also force you to make these difficult tactical decisions along the way. So on your turn, you can do two things. You can either take tokens from this central board and put them into your personal storage, or you can take a field from this supply and fill it up with any combination of your pre-existing orchid tokens, as well as any hives that you have. So really you only have two things you can choose from on your turn, but the complexity comes from once you make that choice, how are you going to carry out that action? The game rewards you for prioritizing one or two colors as much as you can, because the more you're adding those colors to your pre-existing plots of fields, the higher you're going to score each time you add a field. But the game also encourages players to diversify and get all 5 colors, because the first one to do so gets one of these diversified production tokens worth 10 points. And the value of those goes down the later and later that players actually diversify and get those bonuses. So I like that there's that kind of balance of, do you want to really go all out in one or two colors to get those big bonuses that trigger every time you're adding, or do you want to really try and diversify early to try and get to the diversity production bonus before other players? Depending on the player count and which orchid tokens are available on the board, your decision isn't always that clear. Sometimes there's the option to take 3 different colors, and you think you might want to start filling up your board quicker. Other times you really want to get that token with 2 or 3 bees to make your hive stronger later, or maybe it's the right time to take that single queen bee token, or maybe there's even an orchid that you want to gamble on. There's a lot of choices to make here, and even when you're actually taking your fields into your supply, you have to think about not only which way you put them, and whether you're going to flip it over, stick it on one side or the other, what combos you're going to make in terms of lining up your tokens, and what you're going to leave exposed to be able to add to later. So there's a lot of depth to every decision you're making, regardless of whether you're taking stuff from the central board or filling a field from the supply. And on top of all that, you have to even keep track of where this gardener is going to move after you take your turn, because depending on the amount of orchid tokens you take, that gardener is going to move that many spaces. So you can really be looking ahead to where you're lining that up for your opponent to go next, which is just another thing that you really have to think about in this game. So again, for something that has a relatively simple rule set, might seem pretty simple to get to the table and explain pretty quickly, there's a lot to think about every turn, which I really like about this game. As with most games like this, the higher the player count, the less you can really keep track of what everyone else is doing. That being said, the game is excellent at all player counts, and regardless of how many players you're playing with, it usually only takes about 30 to 45 minutes, which is a huge plus. So between moving this gardener token across the board, having the shared board that we're all taking pieces from, as well as the field, which also, as the first player to build 5 of these fields in their own supply will trigger the end game, all those things combine to, infuse this game with a little bit of player interaction, but nothing too extreme. It's definitely not a very mean game, as you can't really do a whole lot of blocking, and you can't really do stuff that specifically targets an opponent and makes them lose points or make things more difficult for them. So if you're looking for something with that's a lot more competitive and has that player interaction where you can really do stuff to kind of get at your opponents, you might find better options elsewhere. But for the theme and the weight of the strategy in this game, I think the level of player interaction is perfect. And while the design of the game is definitely the strength of it, I have to say the artwork and components are really nice. It fits this kind of, like I said, the theme and the weight of the game really well. Again, you've got these multicolored honeypot tokens, you've got all the colorful orchids on the board with the bees. It's all really nice. But the one complaint I have is these flimsy little polyomino fields. They're really just not up to par with the rest of the component quality here. It's something that really stands out in my eyes. It doesn't ruin the experience for me in any way, really, but they're kind of just flimsy. They kind of bend sometimes. They don't stay flat on the table, and again, it's just not quite up to par with the other component quality in the game, and even the box art, which is quite nice. More and more these days, I'm looking for games that are challenging and satisfying without requiring a big daunting, long rules explanation. There's certainly a shift in the board game world towards a lot of these kinds of games in recent years, and honestly, in the recent years, you won't find too many better options than Queenz. I won't pretend like it does anything particularly groundbreaking. This isn't a super innovative new game that's going to make you, just dumbfounded at some sort of new mechanic. But what it does really well is take a lot of familiar mechanics from other games and blend them together seamlessly in a way that, a lot of games really fail to do. So it's a really satisfying way to just bring together a lot of elements and make these tough decisions that'll just challenge you game after game, even though it doesn't, blow anything out of the water in terms of the complexity or innovative side of things. But I definitely think this game deserves a lot more buzz than it's getting. So for my full written review, as well as any other content we have, check out allyoucanboard.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out our other social media platforms. Thanks for watching.